I don't throw darts at a board. I bet on sure things. Read Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Every battle is won before it's ever fought. Think about it. The most valuable commodity I know of is information. Wouldn't you agree?
I gotta pump those numbers up. Those are rookie numbers in this racket.
A, B, C. A, always B, B, C, closing. Always be closing. Always be closing. The show goes on!
It's Wednesday night and fantasy football is on the agenda. Grab a seat and let's get down to business. It's time for the Fantasy Boardroom. Here's your host, Tycoon.
And welcome to the Fantasy Boardroom. Happy holidays, happy Thursday. We are post Thursday night football. As you know, this is not Wednesday night, as alluded to in the intro, but I'm not making a separate intro for days that we have to postpone by a day. That's just not what's going to happen. We just had what was for 3 quarters a horrific game of football, followed by what seemed to be the inevitable Vikings collapse. That did not ultimately happen, but it was a thrill right down to the end. So thank goodness a sequence of highly unlikely events led to what was at least an entertaining game, or at least an entertaining fourth quarter of a football game, and helped some folks in fantasy and in betting pay some things off. So thank you for making that furious rally, Pittsburgh. Thank you very much. I at least broke even myself. We've got Dem Boys saying, what up? We got Anthony saying LFG, Thursday Boardroom. That is right, Thursday Boardroom. It's going to be a little more casual. I don't know how long we're going to be here. We're just going to see where the evening takes us. Some things got in the way of preparation and the actual meeting of the boardroom at its regular time. So tonight, we're going to do what we've done last week and what will be a similar format for the rest of the season. We're not going to spend too much time looking back on previous weeks. What we're going to do is look ahead, look forward, focus on the task at hand, especially given that it is now Thursday night. Nobody cares what happened last week. Playoffs are coming up. We got stuff to do. So, the theme of tonight is final preparations. For some leagues, with the exception of Scott Fishbowl, I'm going to lead, there's a reason that has to start in week 14. That works out. That's fine. Every other league in the world, if you're starting week 14, what the hell are you doing? What's wrong with your commissioners? Awful. Terrible. Leave those leagues. Absolutely leave those leagues. If there are still players on bye, playoffs should not be happening. Just absurdity. Absurdity. So first and foremost, make sure you're prepared because there are some notable teams on bye. We've got, most importantly, Indianapolis, Jonathan Taylor, Carson Wentz, Michael Pittman. They are on bye. And some whatever teams, New England, Miami. Nobody cares. But, okay, fine, we care in New England, Miami. But most importantly, Jonathan Taylor's on bye, and that sucks. And if there's anybody that is in the playoffs and doesn't have a bye concurrent with Jonathan Taylor's bye and rosters Jonathan Taylor, that is... Fantasy football is unfair by nature. That is unfathomably unfair. That is just horrific. So let's jump into this week's games. And let's actually, you know what? Before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about the game that just happened. And those of you here, feel free to jump in, comments, questions, what have you. I'm more in the mood for chopping it up than just talking. This is one of those few nights I wish I had looked to see if I could get a co-host here with me because, man, it would be good to talk about what just happened. With that said, again, Minnesota friggin' dominated this game in the first half, well into the third quarter, 29-0 until late in the third. Touchdown by Pittsburgh, quick turnover, led to another quick touchdown, and then another quick touchdown. They had 3 touchdowns in 5 minutes, and all of a sudden we had a game. Pittsburgh was able to whittle that down to an 8-point lead for their final drive with just over 2 minutes. I think there was 2:16 left on the clock. Got down to a final throw in the end zone that Pat Freiermuth was oh so close to catching to give him a chance at the 2-point conversion to tie and send this puppy into overtime. He was hit as he was trying to secure the ball. Ball pops loose. Minnesota does not fully collapse. Anthony, we're with you in the chat. Thank goodness. I need you in the chat. And that's all she wrote. It was still, regardless of what happened, ending. Honestly, a pathetic performance by Pittsburgh. It was terrible. They honestly did not look like an NFL team for the first 3 quarters. It was. I'm struggling to find the words. I've never seen a running back have it so easy as Dalvin Cook had it, especially in the first half of that game. I mean, there was nobody within 5-10 yards of him every time he touched the ball. I mean, it was. I said this in one of my league chats. I felt like I could have run for positive yardage through some of those holes, which is insane because I'm not fast, not athletic. And while at the running back position, I am post 30. So, I mean, I'm well past the age cliff. Just terrible. Couldn't complete a pass, couldn't run. The line play just led to disaster all around. It finally picked up a bit in the second half, especially on the defensive side. But my goodness, that was really hard to watch for a while. Really hard to watch. Thankfully, though, we still got some respectable fantasy performances out of most of those who are significant. Najee had a couple of touchdowns. Cook was a monster, which honestly has me a bit tilted tonight. Thank goodness in the matchup that I really needed Cook to be quiet in. The opposing side did have Cousins and Osborne, and we'll see what happens there. But still, Cook going off was not part of the game plan this week. He wasn't even supposed to play this week. Sorry, personal problems. I'm really glad actually things kind of started to pick up towards the end of that game, and I was able to hit some of my own props to break even because I was going to enter this in a very foul mood, both fantasy and betting wise, and that didn't happen. Thank goodness. All right. And yet Ben ended up with 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. Solid, again, fantasy performance. Justin Jefferson scored the touchdown. I believe he had in the 80s for his yardage, or was it 79? I forget exactly. Respectable day, not exactly what you hope for. Deontay kind of disappointed. Claypool had a great final drive there, so he had a salvageable day. So in general, Freiermuth had that touchdown as well. You're generally happy with what came out of it fantasy-wise in the end. And that's really what matters. Unless you're a fan of one of those teams. So Dembo's asked, got to start it for you. Hubbard, Jamal, Chase, or Amari, my flex this week. Well, not Hubbard or Jamal Williams. So if that's Jamar Chase or Amari Cooper, I'm going to say Amari, to be frank. Yeah, forget Hubbard, useless. Honestly, hasn't been that good in place of CMC when he's played, so forget that. I am not a Jamal Williams fan. I think you can pretty easily pass on playing him. I'm trying to remember who Detroit plays this week, actually, because I see, Denver. I mean, they're kind of middle of the pack against the run, fantasy-wise. The line's not particularly impressive, but they're decent defense in general. This is nothing I'm touching with Jamal. Nothing at all. Now, yeah, I think it has to be Amari. I mean, Dallas is playing Washington. That secondary is bereft of talent, substance, anything. Yeah, Amari. I mean, and Chase is going against San Francisco. While our secondary hasn't been good most of the season, we've been decent of late, particularly against wide receivers. Chase is the only one that it's hard to say bench Chase, especially when Amari hasn't done much recently. But the matchup, and it just feels like one of those. It's due. It just feels like it's going to be a big Dak week. Pollard has the torn plantar fascia in his foot. Zeke still has the knee. I think it's going to be a big passing day. I'm all in on the Dallas passing game this week, especially considering that's the weakness of the Washington defense. It has to be Cooper for me. Yeah, Cook was not helpful. For those that may be watching, or if you're listening later, Dem Boys here who's commenting, this is the match I'm talking about. There is a league that, in order for me to make the playoffs, I, of course, need to win my own matchup, but I need Dem Boys to beat his opponent in order for me to pass him via points and make the playoffs. It's been incredibly unlucky for me in that league this season. I don't really want to talk about it, but I still have a chance to get into the dance, and if that happens, who knows? Playoffs are absolutely their own thing, but my team has been honestly pretty good this season, just unlucky record-wise, so hopefully I can at least make the playoffs, salvage it, and feel happy about that one. Yeah, Hubbard is against Atlanta. My issue isn't really with the matchup there, my issue is with Hubbard himself. I mean, if the player's not that good, I don't really care who they're playing, and I don't think Hubbard is that good. What can I say? I'm not expecting much there. Not expecting much at all. If he can get a little lucky. I mean, I know Rule fired Brady earlier in the week because he wanted to rush the ball more, and if he's really serious about rushing 30 to 33 times a game, maybe you see 12 to 15 from Hubbard, and who knows what happens. Maybe he can pop one against a team like Atlanta, but I'd much rather put my eggs in the Amari basket versus Hubbard. I mean, that's more what it is. I'm okay with Hubbard in certain situations, but not if Amari Cooper is an option, and not even over Jamar Chase. All right, so I guess now we can actually get into the upcoming matchups. So first matchup we're going to talk about here is Cleveland versus Baltimore. Now, two teams that, in my opinion, not looking incredible of late. I mean, and what team in the AFC is, though, outside of the Patriots? I mean, they're just such a strange conference. Such a strange conference. And my apologies if this is a little choppy. Not only was I unable to... Jesus, camera will not stay still tonight either. I'm having a rough evening here. Not only was I unable to do the show last evening, but preparation was affected as well, so I don't have a typical agenda or show sheet prepared. We're just kind of going on the fly. Actually, I hate when I'm looking at the site I'm looking at because it doesn't tell me where the matchup is in these particular games. And I need to know whether this game is in Baltimore or is in Cleveland. And it is in Cleveland. There could be some weather issues. We'll have to check. I think this is going to be a bounce-back spot for Baltimore. That's gut feeling. I don't really have much of a read on this game. Baker's still fighting injuries, but Baltimore's defense hasn't been particularly impressive late either, or in general all season. It's a divisional game. You kind of throw a lot of those stats out the window anyways, especially when it's going to be pretty impactful for the Browns. They really, really need this win. But then again, so do the Ravens. I mean, there's a lot on the line here. There's a lot on the line. Steelers have fallen to 6-7-1, so it gives. Or I'm sorry, 6-6-1. So yeah, this gives the Browns the chance to get that leg up on them. Gives the Ravens the chance to make sure that they stay up on the Bengals. So this is pretty huge. Could be tight. I don't know. The usual reads. There's nothing particularly interesting about this game, at least in terms of making funky decisions. So stick with the core guys. Play Lamar. Play Mark Andrews. Play Hollywood Brown. I probably wouldn't play Baker Mayfield outside of Superflex if you can help it. Play Chubb. I'd even play Hunt. And I'd probably avoid most of the passing game, honestly. But ride Chubb. And as a matter of fact, that is going to be my prop of the week on this game. It's going to be Nick Chubb on Prize Picks right now. He is 64.5 rushing yards. Actually, I'm going to need to write that down because I'm going to hammer that over. Chubb over 64.5 rushing yards against Baltimore. If all are active, pick 2. Anthony asks. Aaron Jones, Saquon Barkley, David Montgomery, Javonte Williams, Eli Mitchell, probably not playing. I really hope he is. But yeah, it's not looking likely at this point. I have him too, non-PPR league, even in non-PPR. I mean, he's picked up on the receiving work a bit, but that's not a major portion of his output. So if somehow Eli Mitchell is active, he would be one of the 2. Jones. Oh man, I want to say Barkley so bad, but it's hard to. Monty is fighting a variety of injuries. We'll see if he's even. Yeah, I mean, Javonte Williams. I mean, Melvin's going to be back, and I know everybody wants Javonte to stay the bell cow. I know it doesn't matter. Melvin Gordon will go back to the approximate 50-50 split if he's active. So probably going to say no to Javonte. I know Dylan's gotten a pitch. This is really tough, my man. This is really, really tough. I am not really sure. Jones and... I'm definitely going to say Jones. Definitely going to say Jones. And you know what? I'm going to stick to my guns here, and I'm going to say Barkley. Jones and Barkley. I mean, the Chargers are one of the worst run defenses in the league. It's going to be Glennon or maybe Jake Fromm again. They're going to need Barkley, or he's going to get a lot of dump-offs, and I know it's not PPR in this case, but at least you'll be able to rack up some receiving yards, so that's the way we have to go. Aaron Jones, Saquon Barkley. Kind of almost start your studs, but it's kind of hard to say that when there have been stretches where these guys haven't been studs. Next game, Dallas, Washington. I think this will be a fantasy bonanza. Everybody except for, everybody in the passing attack for Dallas, I'm going to be looking at very, very hard. Dak, Amari, CD, and Schultz all should be high priorities to place in your lineup. Pollard and Zeke, I'm a little more hesitant given their injuries. They'll be able to do a little something Pollard if he even plays. I don't know. That's a serious injury. So I would probably tend to avoid the running back position in this matchup. Like we were talking about just a little bit earlier, Washington's secondary is their weakness, so that's what you want to attack. So get that Dallas passing attack. And on the flip side, just take the sure talent on the Washington side. In Superflex, you're playing Taylor Heineke. Otherwise, it's all about Terry and Gibson. So play those guys. Let's go. Very simple. Dallas should ultimately win this game, but I do think you'll get significant output from all of the core fantasy players here. I think that Dallas's defense, while improved, is still susceptible to some big plays, and I think Washington will be able to get them here to keep a divisional game at least interesting for a little while. Thus, play those guys. And on the prop side, I'm going to have to take a look at these receiving lines. Heck, make sure you even play Gallup. Gallup's tempting here, only 42.5, but I think we're going to stay away from that one. CD is at 66.5. I don't see Cooper's lined up here yet, which is disappointing because that's what I was really looking at. I feel like this is going to be the Cooper game. Terry's only at 58.5. That is something he's only hit twice in his last 5, including in a pretty solid matchup last week against Vegas. So that's actually kind of why it would be good. I'm good on that one. Yeah, we're every other game for CD, it seems. Yeah, whatever Amari's line comes out to be is what I'm hitting, because it's probably going to be somewhere in the 50s if CD is at 66.5 right now. Keep an eye out for the Amari Cooper line. Hit that over. Next game. Interesting. Kansas City in Las Vegas. Kind of disappointed last week that the Washington-Las Vegas game wasn't a little more high-scoring like I thought it might be. Bad defenses, good offenses, good skill players. That was weird. I think we're looking at the very least one side scoring a lot of points in this game, and that would be the Chiefs. I know. They had another subpar outing last week, but that's exactly why to expect huge weeks from Kelsey, because the Raiders suck against the tight end, and Tyreek Hill in particular. This is juicy. Get all the Chiefs in there. Clyde, Patty, Hill, and Kelsey. Whoever you have, you're playing them. On the Raiders side, it's all about Carr and Renfro. I don't know that Waller is going to be back, so I would not really worry about Foster Moreau. I mean, probably better than some of the random, if you have Hunter Henry or something and you need to replace him, you could do worse than Foster. But not somebody I'm going to go out of my way. Josh Jacobs has sneakily been on the rise lately. I would definitely make sure you're looking to play him. I mean, he's been involved in the receiving game enough that his receiving props got him to 25.5 yards, so that'll tell you something. Hunter Renfro's just been a beast. Wide receiver 1 week after week. He was wide receiver 12 this most previous week. Get these guys in there. And my favorite prop for this game is 73.5 receiving yards over for Mr. Tyreek Hill. That seems like there's no way that's not going to happen. Smash spot for this Chiefs offense. Absolute. Especially this is the time where it's really crunch time, clutch time. You can expect the Raiders to kind of fall apart, especially not in full health and with all that's gone on this season. That moves on to what is the worst game of the week, quite possibly, and that's Houston and Seattle. 2 garbage teams playing a garbage game. This is going to be garbage to watch. It's going to be garbage for fantasy. You might finally see a DK week for those that have been riding out his horrific output. This is very similar to last year. Strong first half, bad second half. Often what Russ does in fantasy as well. Houston's a little more susceptible, to those. Not necessarily the big plays. Those get eaten alive in that intermediate game, and that's where DK, I think, is going to eat them alive. Seattle's defense stinks, but who's going to be playing quarterback? It looks like Davis Mills for Houston. Gross. Quite literally the only person I would play in this entire... I would play Metcalf and Lockett. I think this is going to be a poor Lockett game, but you never know. Houston's not necessarily a big play, or susceptible to that big play, but could happen. Russ has good chemistry with him any given week, so... Just because he's the kind of player that could go for 12 catches for 160 yards and 3 touchdowns at any time, he's in there. But I think this is going to be a DK week, and that's it. I would pass on everybody else. Where is Russ's passing yards prop on that particular game? 223.5. Woof. That is really low. He has gone over that the last couple of games. Yeah, I don't know if I want to touch that one. That's a little sketchy. We don't have any rush yards props for this bad boy. Brandon Cooks, 52.5 receiving yards. I'm probably just going to go ahead and hit that under. That's what I'm going to do. Under on Brandon Cooks, 52.5, because it's going to be ugly for Houston. That's the problem. Now, moving on, because I really don't want to talk about that game anymore, and a game that's not going to be a whole lot better, and that is Tennessee and Jacksonville. Jaguars versus Titans. Still no A.J. Brown for the Titans, but Julio may be back. So there's a little bit of interest there. We shall see. On the Jacksonville side, who the hell knows what's happening? Most of us know about the James Robinson situation last week. They didn't play him most of the game, then gave him a run at the end of the game. They're seemed to be confusion amongst the coaches, Urban Meyer, even James Robinson himself, as to why. Urban himself criticized the decision, or at least agreed with a reporter's criticism. Just unreal. Unreal. What the hell are you doing, Urban Meyer? We knew you weren't cut out for the NFL, but like, this is just borderline ridiculous. These things give me trouble thinking straight. So, back to fantasy at hand. I know the Titans are shorthanded. Don't really care. Jacksonville is that bad. I expect Tennessee to just absolutely take full advantage of this and smash all over Jacksonville, especially with the game being in Tennessee. As for a prop, shoot. Deontay Foreman, what's your rushing prop? Because it's probably what I'm going to be most excited about. I don't have one up for him. I have something up for Foreman. Or anybody in this game. What the hell is this? No rushing props, period? That is whack. So, alright, no rushing props. That's fine. How low they have Tannehill? 215. Trevor at 200.5. I'm actually going to take Trevor's over at 200.5 passing yards. They're going to have to do a little bit of catch up. There will be garbage time points and statistics. 200.5 passing yards over for Mr. Lawrence is the pick. As for fantasy, I would not play a single player from this game if I had the choice. And I do. There's nobody in this game that I would play. Not one. God, I miss A.J. Brown so much. So if Julio doesn't ball out against the Jags, he's done, right? I mean, if he's back and he doesn't, it's hard not to think otherwise. I mean, might be done anyways. But yeah, holy shit, if he... not even necessarily ball out, but if he doesn't at least go out and look good to whatever degree that means, if you don't come away just visually impressed, maybe he doesn't necessarily ball out, but draws a couple of deep pass interferences or something, even just out of pure respect of name on these kids in Jacksonville. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not optimistic about what he does this Sunday, even against Jacksonville. I think it's just still going to be a lot of running. So whoever's getting the carries there for Tennessee, that's who's getting, going to have a good game. Now, moving on. Man, we got a lot of freaking gross games this week. I really hadn't noticed how ugly the schedule was this week. Zach Wilson, that's right, Zach Wilson and the New York Jets taking on Taysom Hill and the New Orleans Saints. That's right, Taysom Hill, who Chris Sims still says is better than Tua Tagovailoa. You heard me. Chris Sims is staunch in his belief that Taysom Hill is better than Tua Tagovailoa. I don't talk a whole lot of quarterbacks, at least in depth on this show, so I don't know if I've gotten into it. I'm a big Tua believer, big fan of Tua, love the kid, love his talent, and I believe as long as he's continued to be given this opportunity, he's going to succeed in this league. I think he is a good quarterback, absolutely a starting level quarterback, and I think one that could ultimately be, I know this isn't awe-inspiring, but it's hard, slightly above average. Being an average quarterback is an insane level of talent, so just to be slightly above that baseline, most teams would love to have. Would have him there in the top, or potential to be a top 15 quarterback still. But I digress. We were talking about New York and New Orleans. Now, New York is god-awful against the run. Alvin Kamara makes his return. Mark Ingram's on the COVID list. Taysom Hill is at quarterback, yes, and is going to vulture some of the work, obviously, especially considering he has, what do they call it, mallet finger. So he's going to still struggle to throw the ball, much as he did against Dallas. Play Kamara. Also play Hill, because he's probably going to run for a ton of yards as well. get a piece of that rushing game. Avoid all pass catchers on the Saints. On the New York side, only, well, nobody. Elijah Moore may miss the game. If Elijah Moore plays, you play Moore. Maybe Crowder, especially if Moore and Corey Davis we know is out. He will be done for the rest of the year. So Crowder could be a sneaky little play. Otherwise, cut bait. No Jets. And we're done with that awful game. We're going to move on to another not so great game. My God, this is awful. Who made this schedule? Carolina and Atlanta. What is this? Okay. Could be a sneaky high-scoring game, admittedly, so there could be some fantasy fun here. This is the one I know we've been waiting for it, at least a lot of us, for a lot of this year, but this is the week that Kyle Pitts gives you something, at least since London. Let's get those yards. Let's get those touchdowns. I am predicting 80-plus yards and a touchdown for Kyle Pitts. This will be a beautiful game for him. You notice I didn't even go back and give you a prop for the Jets and the Saints because I refuse, unless they already have Kamara listed up here. But I don't think they did. No. So, gross. No part of that. Actually, is there an under I can take on the receiving for anybody on the Saints here? Make it simple? Of course not. They know better. There's a reason casinos exist, people. So anyways, back to Atlanta, Carolina. I'll play Cam Newton. Not playing Matt Ryan. Playing Cordero Patterson. Obviously, you're playing Cordero Patterson. Maybe Russell Gage. But yeah, that's really just Pitts and, Cordero. And on the other side, on the Carolina side, it's Cam and DJ Moore. And that's it. There will be hidden fantasy points into their spots, but this is not where I'm, trying to play whack-a-mole and hope I get the right spot. I'm going with where I know there will be some production, and that would be specifically Cam and specifically Cordero. But you want to get the associated points. Yeah, Pitts is kind of a gut call. I just think this week he'll have an opportunity. They have decent corners in Carolina, so I think they're going to be able to shut down Gage and Zacchaeus and whatever nonsense that they have left at wide receiver at this point. And they might deploy him. Maybe Gilmore covers Pitts. We'll see. But I like his chances here. I just think he's got a shot this week. And Moore, you never know. Cam obviously isn't the passer he was, but he is the talent in that offense. I always bet on the talent week after week. I guess it's just to start your studs mentality for this, even though he's been pretty weak over the last, 8 weeks. For the most part, anyways. After starting the year so hot. I mean, Sam Darnold stinks, but he was great for DJ for a while. Anthony, doing prep for our start-sit show tomorrow, and the games are terrible this week. They really are. This is not fun. Maybe there was a reason something got in the way of the show last night. Maybe it was saying don't do a show this week because the games fucking suck. We don't need to do them. We don't need to talk about them because all you do is look at them, you throw up, you set a lineup because, well, you want to make sure you still fight for your seating or your playoff spot or what have you, whatever's left this week, and just not even think about it because, I'm not even excited to watch games this Sunday after going through all this. This is just so hideous. I mean, Cleveland and Baltimore, I guess, will probably get the morning slot because there is nothing else here in these morning games. Oh, no, it's going to be Chiefs and Raiders. My wife is a Raider fan, so that's what we get. And then we finally get to jump into the afternoon games for another absolutely disgusting fucking game. Oh, my God, the schedule. Denver, Detroit, Lions, Broncos, ass. There's no DeAndre Swift even. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I need to go back. I didn't give you the prop here for Atlanta and Carolina. Over 28.5 receiving yards for Cordero Patterson. Boom. Done. Kyle Pitts also is something I'm going to be looking at 45.5 yards. Let's hit that in 3 of 5, as bad as he's been. Yeah, that's a good one too, but particularly Mr. Patterson. Now, On to the next vomit fest of Denver and Detroit. Literally, no one I want to play on the Detroit side. Hawkinson I would play just because there's generally not better tight end options available. So if you're playing Hawkinson, you probably don't have a better tight end. Or if you're rostering Hawkinson, you probably don't have a better tight end to play. Go ahead and leave him in there. Yeah, let's pick your spot with the Detroit receivers. You never know what's going to happen. You're on a roulette wheel with those receivers. And Jamal Williams, I mean, Denver's a better defense than even Minnesota was. Minnesota was very much a plus matchup for Williams, and he couldn't even get double-digit points or crack the top 24 running backs last week. I'm not trusting him this week. He doesn't have Swift to spell him. He's not a lead back. This isn't – I know everybody has these grand ideas about Jamal Williams, and he's a super likable guy. I mean, I love him as a dude, but this isn't Green Bay. He's not stepping into, what Jones was doing. He's a very, very average talent on a bad team, on a bad offense. He cannot create the plays really himself. So keep your expectations low. Yeah, Anthony. Yeah, brutal, bro. Them boys, we have the stupid Seattle game here. Yeah, just watch Red Zone. Seattle. God, you gotta watch the Seattle game. I know you live in Washington, but that is... Dude, Seattle, Houston should not be forced upon anybody. That is inhumane. NFL messing with us. Yeah, in week 4, NFL messing with us fantasy folks. Week 14 bye and shit week 14 matchups. Absolutely. Oh, you've been riding this whole season with Jonathan Taylor? Boom, psych. I mean, what is that? That's the one that gets me the most. How in the world is Jonathan Taylor's bye week in week 14? That is cruel. Thankfully, the other teams not relying on too much. But those that, hey, particularly in Dynasty, those that are rocking Jalen Waddle a lot these days, oh man, if you're deploying him regularly, it stinks a lot to lose him, especially in PPR leagues. Those New England running backs, if you are a Harris owner, especially given the state of the running back position these days, or even Ramondre Stevenson, wow, my gosh, that hurts. Yeah. And then, of course, yeah, just ass games all around. Good luck. Good luck. Another game that's not going to be good in real life, but actually may be a little bit interesting for fantasy, though. So that's a first, at least as we, in a while as we go through the schedule. And that is the Giants and the Los Angeles Chargers. Sorry, New York Football Giants versus the Los Angeles Super Chargers. Well, the Chargers should be able to handle business relatively easily, as the Giants will roll out either Mike Glennon or Jake Fromm. We're not going to make the joke. Jake from Safe Farm. But Jake Fromm could be playing, and that could make this really ugly really fast. But it has me a little bit excited for Saquon Barkley, surprisingly. I know. Maybe I'm just hanging on. It's not take luck. It's just I believe in strong talent, and everybody tries to act like this guy's dead, his career is over, that he doesn't show the G. He pops big plays almost every week. Now, I know a lot of the plays are crap and go for 1-2 yards. Number one, terrible line. Number two, that's kind of always been Saquon's game. He'll have a lot of stretches of, modest gains, between 1 and 4 yards, because he's looking for the home run. But the thing is, he can hit those home runs. So I don't want him to stop doing that. He's capable of it. He can still bust those big plays. And I want to make sure he's on in my lineup when it freaking happens. And also, the Chargers happen to be the worst, or among the worst rushing defenses in the entire league. And with a backup quarterback in play for the Giants, I think Barkley, for once, and actually Booker could be a sneaky play. They'll definitely, there still seem hesitant to be given the 90-plus percentage of snaps to Saquon, so you might want to maybe throw Booker out there in the flex if you're in a desperate position. But Barkley should have a good day. Otherwise, I'd avoid all receiving options and every other player on this entire Giants team. On the other hand, I would start any Charger that is around. Absolutely Herbert, absolutely Eckler, Keenan Allen, if he's able to come back, Mike Williams, if he's able to come back, Guyton, Palmer, if Keenan is out and Williams is in, Guyton, if they're both out, or both of them, if they're both out. So pay attention to that one. The COVID situation. Keenan seems a little more likely to miss. He actually tested positive for COVID, whereas Mike Williams was a close contact, so he just needs to be able to provide a couple of negatives. That's possible. So at this point, we shall see. But that should be fantasy goodness for the Chargers because the Giants are booty. What is Herbert's number this week? That's probably what 290.5. Wow. They got him way up there, but he has hit that 4 of the last 5. I don't see why he wouldn't in this case. Unless Keenan Allen's out, of course. That's what's wild. So you combine the 52.5 rushing yards, 53.5 rushing yards for Eckler. Oof. Those are tough. Any of these people for touchdowns, receptions? Yeah. For what is on the board, you know what? No, I'm going to say take a pass on this one. Probably lean mostly towards Herbert passing over. Yeah, that's where I'm going. But otherwise, just to keep an eye on those numbers. Anthony, seriously, so happy my J team is already clinched, or I would be pissed if, 100%. In a very important league, I do have JT. Now, I'm clinched to be in, but I have a matchup this week that is likely to be for a bye. Extremely important matchup. Oh, man, I'm really sweating this one because it's going to be close. And not having JT sucks. So we'll see what happens. I got to admit, bad timing. I mean, at least it's not the playoffs. If this was the playoffs, and I didn't have him, that'd be just the most bonkers thing of all time. This is just bad timing with the bye. I mean, he helped me get this far to this point. So, it is what it is. Can't really be that upset about it. Just stinks. But at least I know I'm in for sure. So, not too upset. Now we move on to, obviously, the game of the week, which is San Francisco and Cincinnati. No, not really, but it's the game of the week for me. This is, Mixon apparently is banged up. We'll see if he plays. San Francisco's defense, apart from last week, has been quite strong of late. Fred Warner might be back. Elijah Mitchell seeming like he's going to be out with his concussion. He still hasn't made it back to practice or cleared protocol, which is a big bummer for a lot of us who have been relying on him, but get better, get well, Elijah. You might need to roll out Michael Hasty because Jeff Wilson is also banged up. I would actually look a little more at the passing game. I don't think Debo's going to be back either, so I'm looking at Kittle and I'm looking at Ayuk. That's what I'm looking at to start on the San Francisco side this week. And on the flip side, I'm not really overly thrilled about, any of the matchups as far as the stinking Bengals go, but I'll just take the actual wide receiver one, even though he struggled of late, and that is Jamar Chase. Burrow and Superflex, not in 1 QB. I think he's going to fall just outside of that top 12. Mixon you'll play if he plays. T. Higgins is the one I think you don't play, but you probably don't have better options on your team. I think this is one that San Francisco is going to be able to just slightly edge out against Cincinnati, even though they're going to be in Cincinnati, chilly Ohio evening. I think the 49ers are just going to grind it out. I don't know how many opportunities the Bengals are really going to get. I think the defense will be able to hold up. Defense travels on San Francisco's end. No matter who's at running back, they'll be able to still get the job done to an effective degree. Yeah, and they've actually swung from the underdog to the favorite at home. -2 favorites San Francisco is. So to go that way and keep my expectations tempered there for all things Bengals and ride a couple of the pass catchers there for San Francisco. As far as props go, the only thing I'm really looking at is George Kittle over 56.5 receiving yards. He's only hit that twice in his previous 5 games. I think he's about to make it 3 of 6. Okay, now what probably is the actual game of the week here. Buffalo and Tampa Bay. There's not much you can really take out of that game on Monday night between New England and Buffalo. I would just say expect this to be a pass fest. Absolutely. They're just going to throw. I'm almost hoping this is kind of like Chiefs-Rams a few years back in Mexico City. Pass funnel defenses. Well, not quite on the Buffalo side, particularly on the Tampa Bay side. So a pass-heavy offense versus a pass funnel defense. It will be Josh Allen, Stephon Diggs, Emmanuel Sanders, Cole Beasley, Dawson Knox. Play them all, baby. All of them. And Tampa Bay side and play freaking everybody too. I don't know how effective Lenny's going to be running against Buffalo. Should be all right. But he's going to catch a lot of passes. So that 32.5 receiving yards number is looking mighty juicy. Gronk at only 47.5. Mighty juicy. Godwin, 68.5. 54.5 for Edwards. I just want to smash them all. In the end, as far as props go, I'm just going to get this one out of the way because it's going to be Brady at 297.5 passing yards. He is going to break 300 this week. That is the play. But yeah, there's a lot that look good here. I'm going to be hitting this game. Stephon Diggs, only 72.5. I think that's a gimme. Absolute gimme. Yeah, there will be some single games on that one, let me tell you. So play everybody in this game. It'll be a high-scoring affair, high scoring. In the end, I think Tampa Bay is probably going to edge this one out at home. I think Tom Brady's going to be able to extend his dominance over the Bills. I know they've been kind of every other. Wouldn't be shocking whatsoever if the Bills came in and took this game, but I do think they'll still be beaten up a little bit from just what was a brutal game against New England. Tough, physical, cold, windy, angry. I like Tampa. Go for Brady. Start everybody. Now we're getting into freaking prime time, baby. Prime time. Bears, Packers. Again, nothing particularly interesting about this one. You play, again, the usual suspects. You're going to play Rodgers. You're not going to play Fields. You're going to play Adams. You'll play Mooney. You'll play Montgomery if he plays. You'll play Khalil Herbert if Montgomery does not play. You'll play Aaron Jones. A.J. Dillon, I would not. I know we've seen an increased role lately, but there was the extra bye week for Aaron Jones to continue to get healthy. Leave it alone. Don't just play the top guys there. I'm not playing MVS. No. Read my start sit article as to why. I mean, I know it seems like a good play on paper, but I think this is really going to be just a stud game, and they're going to ride Aaron Jones in particular quite a bit. And yeah, Chicago, it's really Mooney and whatever running back starts. They're probably going to struggle offensively. Jair Alexander is close to coming back. I think Green Bay's just going to dominate this game, to be honest. This is going to be a very unentertaining primetime game as Green Bay dominates Chicago at home. And lastly, Monday Night Football. What several weeks ago looked like it might be a great game. Arizona and the Rams. The Rams have struggled mightily of late. Smashed the Jaguars last week and are about to fall back to struggling again against the mighty Arizona Cardinals. No, really, they are, though. It's uncanny. I do expect Cliff and that team to fall apart later on in the year, i.e., the playoffs. I'm not a Kingsbury believer. Didn't like the hire. But admittedly, the team looks really good this year. They haven't cracked, no matter what injury or piece of adversity has faced them so far. They're a good team. They're a good team. Most importantly, they're better than the Rams. I don't know what to tell you. They're better, and they're at home. And I don't know that home field means a ton, but I think it does for the Cardinals, especially against these Rams. I think you're going to see more of what we've seen from Stafford over his whole career. I know he started this season off playing at an MVP level, kind of proving me wrong to a degree, but yeah, he's regressed, and now he's good against lesser teams and bad against better teams. I don't know what to say. He is who he's always been. That's just what Matthew Stafford is. He's still dealing with injuries on the offensive side. We don't know how healthy Darrell Henderson is. We don't know really how truly healthy Beckham is. So it's going to be basically him and Kupp again, and I think Arizona defensively is going to be able to shut that down. The Rams defensively are overrated, and Kyler and the boys will have no problem. So as far as who's starting and sitting, I'm playing Cooper Kupp. Given by situations and everything, I'm probably playing Odell Beckham. I am playing Odell Beckham in several leagues. I'll take the chance at the big play, especially the garbage time plays. And Michelle or Henderson, depending on if we get a better read. Right now, it would probably have to be Michelle, but if it looks like Henderson's going to actually play, then I'm definitely playing Henderson. On the other side, Kyler, Hopkins, I would play Ertz as well. James Conner as well. Edmonds is close. I don't believe he's going to be back for Monday. So Conner, Kyler, Hopkins, Ertz, they're a core four. That's who you're rolling with. As far as the prop goes, ugly on the receiving side. We'll go back to anybody on the rushing end for this game. James Conner, 63.5 rushing yards. I'm going to go ahead and take that under. I don't know if he'll get that kind of yardage necessarily, as Arizona will just kind of assault this game away. I mean, he'll get carries, but he's not a big efficient yardage guy necessarily. This is a great touchdown scorer. So I'm going to pass there on Connor, go with his under. And that kind of wraps that up here. As usual, I'm going to end with somewhat of a plug for Prize Picks. Go sign up at prizepicks.com. Use code collective, KOLLECTIV. All lines that I've been discussing, numbers for the prop picks, have been from prizepicks.com. Go make yourself some money. Make sure you're following the accounts. I posted my Thursday night plays from the collective account and from my account earlier this evening, a little bit before the game, 45 minutes before. We were over on Claypool's receiving, over on Osborne's receiving. Hopefully you followed, tailed, cashed. Let's go. I also followed up from the personal account saying I like Kirk's over on 1.5 touchdowns. Boom. We're 3 for 3 tonight. The collective betting crew as a whole were pretty hot there on our collective core 4 picks. I think we're 3-1 the last 3 weeks. So a 9-3 run there. We're not perfect in you have your ups and downs of gambling. That's why it's gambling, but we have been pretty hot lately. So make sure you're following us for your picks. Not everything has to be prize picks. If you prefer underdog, monkey knife fight. If you can't play this, but you have the option for legal sports betting and bet props, follow along. We have a lot of fun. Otherwise, this week is, I don't want to call it the playoff push anymore. It's still in the middle of the playoff push for some of you. Make sure you were paying close attention to the starts and sits advice as we went through, so you can squeak out that last one you need to edge out your opponent, hopefully, even if it's on a points tiebreaker. Get that win, get as many points as you can this week. You're still playing, it still matters. You're still fighting for seeding. You're still fighting for buys. You're still fighting for a lot. Don't let your guard down. Pay close attention to the news over this weekend. It's very, very possible, as it is every single week, that there will be a random piece of news that drops that changes everything in a critical matchup for you. Somebody's injured. Somebody's got COVID. Somebody else is out that's going to give somebody on your bench an opportunity to come up. There is so much that could happen. So much that's at play. Weather could change in places. Pay close attention. Get yourself in the playoffs. Get yourself in the dance. And then it's a 3-week game. That's what this is. This whole thing comes down to 3 weeks. Or if you're lucky enough, only 2 weeks for you as you enjoy a bye. Don't let your guard down. But week 14 is already here, baby. We already had a game. It was ugly for a while, was stupendous in the end. Great drama, good fantasy results. We're happy. We're moving on to yet another Sunday of what is unfortunately a lot of ugly games, but there are still some highlights, particularly on the afternoon side here for us on the West Coast, the 1 p.m. Pacific / 4 p.m. Eastern slate. There's some good stuff. We cannot wait. There are only a few weeks left in this fantasy season, so please, don't take it for granted. I was saying this last week, we clamor all offseason for this stuff. We're begging for preseason by March or April. So do not let these weeks go by too quickly. Enjoy winning. Enjoy the fun with your leagues. Talk it all. Just have a good time. We're here to have fun. That is part of what fantasy is about. And, go in. But don't take it for granted. Make sure you're squeezing every last drop of enjoyment out of it as you can. Maximize that in your holiday season here. So with that, we thank you for joining. Great show, Tycoon. Have a great rest of your night. Tim Boy says, yes, thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Tim Boys. And with that, this meeting of the Fantasy Boardroom is adjourned.